What's poppin', players? Welcome back to a Two Penny Gameclub review, this time Chrono Trigger. If you didn't know, me and my good buddy Connor, say hello to the people, Connor.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. He likes the monotone intros, ladies and gentlemen. Me and my good buddy Connor here, we go back into the annals of our backlog, and we pick up a video game and we play it over the course of a month. At the end of that month, we regroup, we give you a full-fledged review, and then just for fun times, we like to rank them against each other, because who doesn't like a good ranking to just form the ultimate video game list, the top tiered list.
Yes. Yes.
Anyways, we had previously done.
Wait.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just have to say that I am so dedicated to this comprehensive list that I will play any game that we decide, and I play it all the way through. You can get that from the Chrono guarantee. I had to start this game over halfway through.
He did have to start it over. That's part of the reason why we're late, is because he had to start over, and we'll get to that. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we've reviewed The Last of Us.
I have respect for this list. I feel so passionate. I feel so passionately about it, Tavin. I feel so passionate. I just had to say that. I'm happy that we're consistent. Yes.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, great. We reviewed The Last of Us. We reviewed Resident Evil 4. And currently, they live in that order. Number 1, Last of Us. Number 2, Resident Evil 4. This month, we are reviewing, yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, Chrono Trigger. So, Connor, you have played Chrono Trigger before. This was my first time playing Chrono Trigger.
Mm-hmm.
I played it on the PlayStation Vita with a PlayStation 1 Classics port. Let me tell you what, I wish I didn't play it on the Vita.
Was it those load times?
Long load times. Lots of staring at a black screen. Anyways, so yes, let's go ahead and get it out here since you wanted to make it a big thing. I didn't finish my playthrough.
You didn't?
I didn't. I am 17 hours deep into a playthrough right now. 16, 17 hours, somewhere around there. So, for all intents and purposes, all right, fuckhead. For all intents and purposes, I've played this game. I know what it is. I know the systems. I know the things. Did I see the end of the story? No. Did I beat every boss? No. I did. All right? But I played a majority of the game. What do you want from me? You know, I
will give you the concession. You did get to a certain point where I think you can give a good enough estimate of the game, though it is inferior to my estimate of the game.
Like, I've seen every era of time. Right?
But you didn't see all the plot points.
I didn't see the plot points, all right? But I watched a YouTube video of a plot recap and stuff, so forth. So let me go ahead. Let me get all my shit out the way, and then we can let the real reviewer who finished the game practically played it twice in the last month. And he can get all the good thoughts out. Overall, I think Chrono Trigger is a really good game. I think its systems are well balanced. I think its battles are fun. I think its characters are charismatic. I think the game as a whole is very tongue-in-cheek and fun and charismatic as a whole. I think its art style is pretty solid. It's old, but that's expected. I think its music never becomes grating. I wish there was more of it sometimes, and sometimes I wish there was less of it. Specifically, the Magus Castle music is not great. That's probably the worst track, and it's very grating, and I didn't like that track, and you spent a long time in Magus's Castle. But...
Well, if you're bad at it.
No,
if you're bad at it.
There's 3 or 4 bosses in that castle, Connor.
No,
you fucking asshole. I'll have you know I didn't die once in that castle. Not once.
I did.
Anyways. I think overall the game does have fun and charm, and if you're one of the if you're like someone who does enjoy classic JRPGs, you will enjoy this one a lot. However, I just couldn't sink my teeth into it. I was never having a bad time playing it until an hour ago when I decided to put it down because we delayed recording for like an hour so that I could try and finish it. And if I dedicated another 2 hours, I could probably knock it out. But I got to the twin golem, or the twin, what are they called? The golem twins, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm underleveled, and they just wiped the floor with me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I've played enough. I know what this game is. Connor beat it, so I'll let him have the definitive opinion here for this Gamecast, and I'll do my best in the future to never let this happen again.
It is an older game. Most definitely.
It's an older game. And I found myself feeling, I've just felt more often than not this game is very tedious. Just so many battles after battle after battle, and so many of them feel meaningless. Obviously, they're not, because I ended up being underleveled. I probably should have battled more. But I think its combat systems are solid. They're well put together. They're well balanced. They make sense. You get it's a good like balance of like visual cues mixed with gameplay mechanics. For example, like if an enemy is colored red, probably either A, don't use fire attacks on them, or absolutely use fire attacks on them. Mm-hmm. One of those two. And then you just kind of figure it out from there. If they're a machine, probably use water. Who knows? That probably will work. And then I think just the normal attack function, just the quick, hey man, I'm just gonna stab you real quick. More often than not will carry you through most of the game, which is great. Yeah. I think, where you think of games like Pokemon or Persona, where the neutral attacks are just kind of there to just kind of do chip damage, but they're not the like actual good attacks. And for some enemies and some boss fights, that's still true. But for a lot of the game, you can carry yourself a lot of the way with just doing physical attacks, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Its cast of characters are unique and charismatic. I enjoyed pretty much all of them. I do just wish we dove deeper into those characters. It kind of just feels like they're caricatures. And, what's her name? Marley? Marl? How do you... Marl? Marl is just the plucky, friends with everybody one, and that's it, the whole way through. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then I guess there's a romance between her and Chrono, I guess. I don't know.
They marry at the end.
Sure. Cool. Good for them. Chrono doesn't say a fucking word, so I couldn't care less. But honestly, my girl Ayla, though, she was a baddie, though. That was a baddie right there, that Ayla. Anyways.
Yeah. Cool character.
But yeah, overall, it's a good game. I understand why it's a classic, but it's an old game, and it didn't click for me. It's not entering my favorites of all time. It's entering my, if you're a gaming historian, or if you just consider yourself a long-term gamer and you want to speak about games in an educated way, you should play this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Connor, go ahead, give us your opinion about the game, and then we'll deep dive and talk about more stuff.
Sure. So I very much liked my revisit of this game. I played it back in sophomore year of high school, so I didn't play it when I was a kid, like a lot of people who love Chrono Trigger
10 years ago.
Played it. Yeah, it was a while.
Did you know?
A good while. That's why I was so.
We entered high school 10 years ago.
Did we?
Yeah.
Like entered it? Huh?
Entered high school 10 years. Like our freshman year started 10 years ago.
Huh. Well,
time fucking flies, doesn't it, buddy?
It does. Yeah. Damn.
Connor, you and I had been friends for years at that point.
Yeah. It was 6th grade, I believe.
Something like that.
Here we go.
Lord alive. Look at us. We're getting old.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not yet, but we're getting there. It's on the way.
I'm going to start feeling the aches soon.
Huh?
I'm going to start feeling the aches soon.
I already do. Anyways, I'm sorry. I cut you off. Continue.
No, you're good. I like I said, thoroughly enjoyed my revisit to this game. I could say that I probably liked it more this time around than I did the first time I played through it, and I also did a better job at just playing the game, because I remember it was a lot harder back in the day, and I struggled with a lot of boss fights. But now I breeze through them, which
I'm sorry to cut you off again. That's crazy, because I never felt it was hard.
No, neither did I this time around. Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I don't know what I was thinking back then.
Maybe we're just smarter gamers now.
I guess so. Guess I am. Especially because that was one of the first JRPGs I played, so that probably had some kind of an impact on it. But at times I found the game a bit too easy. I would just kind of find the way to do it the most efficient way. And due to the fact, like you said before, there are tons of fights, and it can be a slog at certain points just to go through and backtrack a lot and have to fight enemies over and over again. But, thankfully, it was done in a very flashy way. The animations that were used with all of the different text that you had to your accessible to your fingertips, and the a little bit more the more depth to it, where you can use multiple characters, ATB bars, once they're all the way filled, to do text that involve both of them, and that generally have higher damage or allow characters to do elemental damage that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. So that made combat very fresh, or it made it very solid. Even though it might not have been so, gripping all the time. I wasn't always super invested and on the edge of my seat during combat encounters. I would just breeze through them. But mechanically, like you said before, solid. Really solid gameplay.
You jumped into the deep end on mechanics real quick. So just as a quick breakdown, this is a turn-based RPG, but it uses an active time battle system. And if you don't know what that means, in most turn-based RPGs, if you put the controller down, combat does not continue. Everybody just sits there and stares at each other and waits for the player to take their turn. An active time battle system is one where the battle does continue. So every character is set on a timer. And when that timer is up, it is now their turn to move. But if they don't move, that's not going to stop the other characters' timers. So for example, if I just sit there and I'm surrounded by 3 spiders, depending on my stats, such as like my speed or my power, or this, that, and the third, I might be placed like spider number 1 might go first, then me, then 2 and 3. So let's say spider 1 takes his turn. I sit there, I do nothing. Well, spider 2 is going to go when spider 2 is ready. And so on and so forth. Which kind of allows you to have to think on your feet a whole lot and work and move as fast as possible to figure out enemy weaknesses and strengths, and experiment quickly, and sort of play your way through that battle that way. Mm-hmm. It's just to kind of put some pressure on to give some energy to a turn-based RPG.
And generally, I think those are the best way to play these kinds of games. Final Fantasy is very famous for doing that, but works very well in this game.
I like the traditional system more.
That's still a good system.
Yeah,
nothing wrong. I think both of them have value of their own. That I'm happy there's 2 ways to do it. So there's some variety in how these games are played. But going back to what you were saying before, all the characters are very likable. They're unique. They're interesting. They grab you. Especially helped along by Akira Toriyama's art style, famously done the writer of Dragon Ball, which is iconic. Everyone knows who Dragon Ball is, and I think it really helps lend to the characters, because they do pop into my mind. I can remember how they all were designed in their portraits. I know their personalities. Just very well designed characters, though they don't have the most depth to them. Some more than others definitely do, like Frog, Glenn. He definitely has some of the most character work done as far as he's concerned. Robo as well. Robo and Luca's relationship. 2 of the other characters in the game. Marl and Chrono. Yeah, as you were saying before, just they look cool.
They do look
cool. They play well, but
do play well.
Just not much to say beyond that. One other thing that I really have to stress that makes me like this game so much is the soundtrack. I think very, very highly of it. I think some of the greatest soundtracks, OSTs in video games, are in this soundtrack. Sound like the Corridors of Time, the song that plays during the Kingdom of Zeal area. I think that's probably my favorite soundtrack I've ever heard in a video game. It's just such a peaceful thing to listen to that I still listen to it when I'm reading books or reading manga when I'm in bed at night, because it's just a peaceful, nice, pleasant song that I can't get enough of. Magus's theme, the battle theme that that plays when you fight him, it's epic. Great. Epic. Really, really epic. Yeah, one of the first times, like I said, this was like my first JRPG, and to have something like that play, even though the gameplay obviously isn't as big and flashy and dynamic as some other games out there that I had especially played at that point in my life, it really compensated for not having those things and just energized me during the entire fight. And I would even stop and listen to it whenever I was able to get breaks in the combat by clicking on text, because that was one way you could stop the gameplay from going constantly, because it would give you time to choose from your list of text on what you're going to do to which enemy. So I would just sit there sometimes and listen to the soundtracks because they just were so captivating to me. Scala's theme.
How did you pause combat?
By going to tech. It was not on the PS. It may not have been on the PS1 version. Because I would go into text.
They definitely did not pause combat when I was playing, at least. Oh, and then I totally didn't even break down. So your party group you have 3 in your party, one being your player character of Chrono, who's in your party at all times. So you just pick 2 and 3 to kind of balance out Chrono's abilities and what you're fighting at the time. And every character has a tech move, T-E-C-H, tech, in which this is basically like their super move or their abilities or so forth. So Chrono has one called Cyclone, in which he does a spin move where he's slashing his sword and can hit multiple enemies at once. Chrono also unlocks lightning based magic and so forth. And so what Connor was kind of dipping into earlier with combining text to create dual or even triple text is when characters use their abilities in conjunction with each other to do extra damage or provide an extra boost to elemental damage or so forth. For example, Luca has fire. So Luca and Chrono can combine their abilities to where he does he basically has a flame sword that he stabs his enemy with, and it'll do 700 damage as opposed to the normal 300 that each individual attack would give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes one of those things that makes combat more fresh and fun, like I was saying, that gives it life. Yeah, but let's see what else I covered. Soundtrack, story. The story's pretty interesting. As far as time travel stories go, be very easy to mess it up. Thankfully, this didn't. And it was still able to do it in a more light, fun way. So it wasn't really super serious with its time travel mechanics.
But it also has a lot under the hood that you don't know unless you play around with. Like there's a lot. Like this game is famous for having a bunch of endings, none of which I've seen, obviously. But there's a lot you can do, and you can really play around in the order in which you complete certain tasks to end up with a different solution and so forth. So all of that's really cool, and I'm really exciting that they put in that much work just to get all those different narrative beats happening. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, I guess pixel art is beautiful in this game. Going back to the Kingdom of Zeal, great pixel art. I mean, one of my favorites of all time as well. The game itself, all multiple aspects of it had big impacts on me. And I, always think about in my mind. They're always in the back of it when I think of cool things in video games, which, not every game's able to do. So it's, in my eyes, something that I hold in very high regard. Another thing that I do is I try to if I care more about games that get me emotionally invested. And though the characters aren't super deep or anything like that, I had a lot of fun with them. And it was sad to see them part inevitably at the end. How they part exactly, that's up to you. But not every game is able to make me do that as well. So I hold those games in very high regard. So it just all in all worked together just to make this very nice experience that I was very pleased to revisit again. And I really appreciated it more on a second going than I did on my first. Very, very good game.
I'd probably be higher up on it if I could just play it as I want, leisurely. But because we run this podcast, I was on a time limit. I started school and I moved to a different city, and so I just didn't have a lot of time during the month to play. And I kind of crammed 12 hours into the last 2 days, and that probably played in a lot to what I was feeling about the game.
It might have, yeah.
I have touched this game before. I made it about 4 hours in. When I first got my Vita, and was really enjoying it, and I just put it down for one reason or another. And as I'm playing the opening, footage of the game right now, and what's weird is I have nostalgia for the first couple of hours for this game, which is my limited experience that I have. So I never will. I know I never will, but I'm almost like, oh man, I should just start over and just go again and like really just let this game breathe and just give it, it's only like 20-ish, 23-ish hours long. Really like let it breathe and break 30 hours, higher. And I was playing with a walkthrough guide with the wiki guide, so I was zooming through faster than I would have. But to like really just like let me just explore and like really like flesh out the world of all this, I think it would do better in my mind for that reason. But I still don't think it would crack much higher for me. For example, like the only real experience with active time battle JRPGs that I have is Final Fantasy VII, the original, and I like that game more than this game.
I would too. Yeah. I do too.
There are things about this game that are better. The combat system I think is better in this game. The music is better in this game, and the art is better in this game. But it's just something about the sum of its parts that puts Final Fantasy VII above this one to me. And it might be the story. With it 7 continuously dives into the psychosis of its characters. And it has dramatic events that you care about. Whereas this one, it's like, we're playing around for a little bit. We're being introduced to characters, and each character or some characters have tragic backstories, and some don't, and some are just fun, and some are tragic or whatever. But once you get introduced to them, their characters don't really progress from there. Whereas, like, Barrett becomes the leader he always wants to be, Tifa and Cloud fall in love. Aerith dies. And there's just more. I feel like there was more excitement and more building into the climax of Final Fantasy VII than what I was feeling in the build up to the climax of Chrono Trigger. And I think part of it is they're so caught up in having their time traveling romp, and they try to give like a plot to each era of time that you visit. And I think that holds the game back a little bit. It makes it feel a little more episodic, a little more almost monster of the week. Like, as I was thinking about it in lead up to this review, I was like, honestly, like, it's almost structured in a way to where you could pick it up and play 2-3 hours and have a story arc in that. But none of the arcs build into each other in any meaningful way. They try to point you continuously to the big bad. But, and I think the twist of like, oh, Magus is the big bad. Oh, except no, he's not. I think that was a fun little twist.
Yeah.
But
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Overall, I just don't think the reason why my motivation to get through the game, I don't think is strong enough to carry the whole game.
Hey, sometimes it's not. But just to give you some details that you weren't very privy to because you didn't play it all the way through, you can get... that was an unintentional jab.
No, that was intentional. Don't lie to them.
It was not. It was not. But Magus actually can become a part of your party. You have the choice to kill him, fight him, kill him, or let him join. It's a pretty important, useful addition to the team. And also, you can change out Chrono later on with other party members. It's at a certain point, you were locked into it most of the game, but that kind of goes away as the game progresses.
We can do full spoilers here, so forth.
It's been out for so long. You guys, sorry. It's not as iconic as something like Final Fantasy VII, but it's still iconic, and it's still been out for years and years and years.
Well, also the purpose of the idea of the show is that you're playing along with us. And so forth. So, I enjoyed Chrono Trigger, but it didn't carry me through to the end. And but a lot of what you were saying rings true for me. I really like the music. I really like the art. I think the environments and the character designs hold up really, really well. Some of the special effect type stuff, maybe not so much. Like the portal when you time travel doesn't look good. Anytime any area of effect magic happens, doesn't look great. I think specifically water. Water magic looks pretty atrocious.
Hey, that's okay.
you forgive, things for their time and so forth. Did you change the color of your UI?
No, I didn't know I could.
Oh no, yeah, you can. Yeah, there's a whole thing in the menu dedicated to it. Yeah, no, mine's blue.
You? Oh, no, you're right. I remember I was like, white looks good.
There you go. Let's talk sort of our general playthrough experience, Connor. My usual makeup of squad mates, Chrono, obviously. But then I like to play. Oddly enough, not usually my shtick, but I liked to play with the damage heavy characters. So I had a lot of Frog, a lot of Ayla, and a lot of what's that? That's not her name. Ayla.
Yeah.
Ayla and a lot of Robo. And then when needed, I would pull out Luca for fire damage or whatever. But for the most part, I was hanging out with Frog. Frog was pretty much a mainstay, and then just depending on if I needed more area of attack things, I would pull out Robo, or if I needed heavier physical damage stuff, I'd pull Ayla out. But Chrono, Frog, and then switch out with Ayla and Robo. Those are my big three. How about you, my man? What was your makeup?
Well, I actually try. Usually, what I try to do with JRPGs like this one is cycle through all the characters so I play all of them. It's kind of how I've always liked to do things, and this one was no exception. But funny enough, as far as obviously, I would ultimately be skewed towards certain party members when the chips were down. And it's same exact thing as you. It was Frog. Frog was almost always in there, and it was Ayla and Robo. Well, that's not true. They was always switching between those groups, and obviously Chrono.
That's Slurp Kiss. Woo! Woo, boy, that thing. If you needed some health, oh man, that came in clutch.
One of the ones that you can unlock later was another. It was a combo with Robo and Frog called Cure Wave. That was even better. It was large health healing to your entire party, and it was just like the final boss fight, Lavos. It was
cakewalk. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And then I did like eventually getting the I think it's called the Gold Nugget or Gold Nut or something like that you can put
Gold
on stud, I believe. Yeah, where it reduces your magic cost by 75%. So like I put it on Chrono, of course, because he's there all the time, and he you use him because I also had Chrono decked out with speed. Anything speed related went straight to Chrono.
Okay. Yeah.
So Chrono was doing the most moves, and he had the most damage, and so on and so forth. So like, Lightning 2 would cost 8 normally, and then you put that on, bam, down to 2 MP for a area of attack, heavy damage Lightning. Hell yeah, let's go.
Crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll say this even though I got caught up because I was rushing, the game does a good job of pacing you out. Like, you don't need to grind really that much during this game, really that much at all. Every time you have an opportunity to fight, fight. But there's never like a moment where you're like, fuck, man, let me just run up and down this hallway 7 times and grind myself out. You can if you want. I ended up doing that when I was putting the Masamune sword together. I ended up going to the prehistoric age early, so I was just running through the prehistoric age like kind of lost for a little bit, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm getting a lot of XP. So, that's probably what carried me through as far as I did.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend anyone who hasn't played it and would be watching this to fight every fight that you come across. And generally, you'll be like, I was fine. That was all I needed.
For the most part, you'll be okay.
Yeah, and equipping characters with the right equipment. Because one thing I really liked was equipment was very central to these characters, because a lot of armor had, stat boosts for certain defense in one area, maybe attack or speed in another, the stamina. Then other times later in the game, you get armor that eliminates status ailments or the ability to get them. So status ailments really do affect you a lot in this game, which I did like, because it's one of the big ways that enemies can get you to
put
die.
Me to sleep every goddamn minute.
For me, it was confuse. They just can't be, and that was kind of
confuse would get annoying too.
Yeah, especially when it'd be nice when they got confused and they would attack the enemy, but when they attacked me, I didn't really like it all that much. So, yeah, that happened a lot. But there's, as you were saying before, like the Golden Stud, I put that on Magus, and he has basically his entire shtick is spells because he can cast lightning 2, fire 2, ice 2, and then
sense.
like dark ones.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and then he has a bunch of dark ones that are like he has some of the better spells in the game, and they cost like 5 and 3, and I'm just throwing them out there doing damage to everybody. So it was nice to opt. And I put the Wrath Band ultimately on Chrono, which allows for an 80% counter rate. So all the small fries that would do damage would, mixed in with the big heavy enemies, because generally they would do that a lot, would just get annihilated because they do, 30 damage to Chrono, and then he'd jump in, and because I had at the end of the game had a weapon that increased the crit rate, would basically would crit heavily almost every single time he did a counter attack, which was 80% of the times he got hit. So
Connor,
really
what
made
did
for
you
cool
play
character crafting. I started on my PC, and then it failed.
And then it failed. It just broke.
Damn, Steam. They don't suck, but
so then you had
my phone.
I
played on my phone. I connected my PS5. Well, that's what I played on back in the day, and the controls I remember were very, very aggravating. Maybe that's combat. It worked really well. The touch was, you were able to do things even quicker than you would with a controller. So that was a positive. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're going quick, but especially at a certain point of the game where you have to walk carefully. It was like one of the most hellish experiences in video. You never got to it. One of the most hellish experiences in video games that I ever experienced. It was just because going into the phone, it's not accurate enough. It really is not. It's able to get you where you need to go. But in those accurate moments, I was stuck on that moment, which this time around did on my first try. The first time I did it back in the day, I was in that for like 10 minutes, and I was getting aggravated, almost angrier than I do for the hardest boss in a Souls game. I was getting infuriated.
That's nuts.
So, yeah, oh my god, it was terrible.
So what did you end up? When your Steam version failed? What did you end up doing?
I did my phone, and I connected my PS5 controller through Bluetooth to the controller, so to the phone. So I had a good gaming experience at the end of the day.
Interesting.
And I have a big screen phone, so it was able to show a lot of the game. So thankfully, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But it was annoying that I couldn't play it all the way through on Steam, as opposed to the phone, which I already played it through back in the day, and I wanted to do it in a new way, but that didn't pan out. So at least I enjoyed my experience, though. So I didn't hate it.
One of the things, and I mentioned playing on the Vita, the load times are long. Every time you enter a new screen, it's a long black screen, probably like 2-3 seconds every time. But also every time you enter into a battle, characters assume their positions of where they're going to be in the battle, and then there's a pause as the battle loads. And every single battle, it'd be... And I'm sitting there, I'm like, fuck, man. Like, let me just climb up the wall. I'm climbing up this fucking wall. Like, let me get up to the top of the mountain, please.
You see, Tavin, I was fearful of that when you were playing on the PlayStation Vita, but
no,
you seemed okay with it at first.
At first, so I was, but it just got so grating after, because they start throwing fight after fight after fight after fight at you, and it's just like I'm really sick of this. So here's my thing, Connor. This is a badge of shame for me that I didn't finish it in time for review. I mean, I played enough of the game. Like, I played it. Yeah. Like, I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Chrono Trigger.
I agree.
So here's my thing. I'll come back. I'll restart. I'm gonna play it on another platform. And I'm gonna play it the right way. And eventually we'll get an updated opinion, Tavin opinion of Chrono Trigger. It probably won't change that much, but I'll probably be higher on it than I am right now. Not that I'm low on it right now. I think it's a quality game. I just think it's old, and unless you want to, it is not. I don't think Chrono Trigger is a must-play video game.
Okay.
I think it's a if you have interest, absolutely go play it. You'll have a great time. If you just like JRPGs, absolutely go play it. You'll have a great time. If you like playing just games of old, absolutely go play it. You'll have a great time. But if you're just a modern gamer who, wants to, get his feet wet and, say that you've, got, you probably like, if you want to talk about video games from an educated perspective, Chrono Trigger is a must play. So like guys like you and me, guys like you and I should touch Chrono Trigger and play Chrono Trigger and know what Chrono Trigger's about. I don't think you need to get to the end. I didn't. And I'll be honest, I got 5 hours in, and I was like, okay, I know what this game is about. Like, I get it. Like, now at 5 hours, you haven't seen the breadth of the game, but you've got a good idea. It's enough to be like, all right, I touched Chrono Trigger. I played it. I gave it a try. Like, and so
experienced it.
Yeah. But I'm gonna I don't have time before the end of the year to beat it before the end of the year, Connor. But I'll come back, I'll start over, and I'll play it stem to stern.
Very well.
There we go. On a different platform, though, not the PlayStation Vita, because the load times are driving me fucking insane.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that.
No,
You're going to come out on Switch.
Huh? Yeah.
I know.
Anyways, a lot of people seem to like the DS remake of it.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's considered by a lot of people to be the best way to play it.
So, I might, without owning a DS, I might find a way to play that version. But anyways, neither here nor there. Connor, anything else you want to talk about with Chrono Trigger? Any big plot moments or anything that you want to say spoke to you or anything? Or
the only thing I really want to say or discuss, I should say, is where does it place on the list?
That's a great question, Connor. Now, after today's episode, I'm gonna have like a nice little image breakdown of a list. But right now, we've only got 2 entries. This is gonna be our third. So right now, we have Last of Us number 1, Resident Evil 4 number 2. Chrono Trigger. Where does Chrono Trigger go?
Well, let's hear your thoughts. I
was gonna defer to you first.
Okay, well, Tavin.
Yeah.
I believe you had a thought of what I was going to choose.
Mm-hmm.
I am placing it in the number 1 position of the video game list.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh, that is. I thought you were going number 2.
Well, the worst part is that my satisfaction was not earned because it is in my number 2 spot. You thought that I was going to put it in number 1, and you were going to be upset about that.
No.
Oh. Well, then
I would have been like, "Are you fucking kidding me? The Last of Us?"
Well, in that case, you guessed right. It is in my number 2 spot.
Now,
I should mention, it was not a easy win. It wasn't like that was an obvious choice. Like I said before,
in terms of what? What was not easy?
Deciding which one
was it hard. Was it harder to put it over RE4 or under The Last of Us? Which one?
Under The Last of Us. RE4 was definitely over the Resident Evil 4. No disrespect to that game, but it wasn't as good in my eyes. One of the reasons why I ended up putting it in my 2nd spot and it almost beating out The Last of Us is because, as I said earlier, I kind of have that. I like to feel when I'm playing a video game. I don't like to, which on my replay of Last of Us, I obviously put it on my number 1 spot, which even though it's only, it was the first game we made, and now this is only the 3rd game that we're putting on the list. Maybe it's not the highest bar when compared to that, but I do hold that game in very high regard as well. And ultimately, a lot of the aspects of Last of Us are superior to that of Chrono Trigger, which is why I ended up putting it over it, such as combat, for example. I always
1996 game versus 2013, so it's...
Yeah, of course. But I mean, I obviously like the Chrono Trigger music more than The Last of Us. I enjoyed the art style, the characters themselves, just based on design and based on how they were not presented, but how they were designed, was very memorable, and they're a lot more striking than the characters in Last of Us, which, granted, Last of Us characters are normal people. They're not supposed to look, flashy or special, and I wouldn't want them to. But, that stuck in my mind a lot. But the big reason why I was considering possibly putting it over Last of Us was I had that emotional connection with the game, which I still do with Last of Us, but it was not as much so upon my replay. When I finished Last of Us, I was like, still an amazing masterpiece of a game. And I still believe that to this day. But Chrono Trigger, I actually felt sad to see it end. And, that means a lot to me. But not enough for me to not put it at the number 1 position. Though, I should specify the things that I liked more about Last of Us that put it over it also was, like I said, the gameplay was more fun in general. Chrono Trigger, even though it's more well-designed, I would say, than The Last of Us. It does a lot more interesting things. It would feel like I'm, trying to get through, like I said, combat encounters as efficiently as possible, and it kind of just became, hammering nails. I did enjoy the boss fights a lot. I consistently enjoyed those whenever they would pop up, but just waiting through
the boss fights were always good. The boss fights,
they're always good. Really great boss list, all in all. But
did you ever come across the point where you were like you entered a combat encounter and then it ended, but it ended like with like the slow-mo character would fade to white and explode, and you'd go, wait, that was a boss? That happened to me in the sewers. Because I'd been in the sewers my first time, like just kind of playing around and, poking around or whatever, and I'd explored most of the sewers. And then at the point in the game where they make you go through the sewers in the future, the 2300 AD, I guess I just found a new corner where I didn't explore before, and they were like, "Oh, the intruders, they're here!" And they started fighting me, and I hit everything, and then the giant slug exploded, and I went, "I guess that was a boss fight."
Yeah, that was. I don't think should have been a boss fight. It was fine. It wasn't, particular. It was memorable because of that little intro cutscene and because it was so easy to beat. Yeah. I was in that same. I knew it was a boss just because of the music, but yeah, something just. Oh, he was a boss. Didn't know. So where do you rank it, Tavin?
This is a good question, Connor. And this conversation if you had asked me 2 hours ago, when I was hot, I was a little upset. I was irritated and I was fed up. I was done with Chrono Trigger. But as we've been talking about it, having an objective conversation, having an educated conversation, and just, discussing highs and lows of the game. It's put me in a position to where my heart says one thing, my mind says another thing, but they've got to find some middle ground somewhere. So I was coming in and I was saying, Connor's going to put it at number 2. I'm going to put it at number 3 underneath Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
That's what I said going in, because Resident Evil 4 gameplay-wise speaks to me more. Even though 4's story is completely bonkers and doesn't make any sense, and I don't really care about it that much, I can skip cutscenes and throw on a podcast and just play Resident Evil 4 and have a good time. Like, I can just play that game and have fun. I don't know if I could necessarily do that with Chrono Trigger, and I don't know if I would necessarily want to with Chrono Trigger, because this is a game that demands your attention for a reason. It's less about being fun to play and more about exploring systems and outsmarting the game and throwing in tactics in there and so on and so forth. And then exploring the world and completing your side quests and your little character stories and so on and so forth that I would like to go back and see. Especially because the plot recap that I did showed me a couple of moments that I was like, oh, I would like to see Marl crash the courtroom that, locked me up at the beginning of the game. That's cool. I want to see that moment play out. So now I'm stuck here in a difficult position where objectively Chrono Trigger is probably the better game. I like Resident Evil 4 more. So here's where when I started this tangent of where was I going to put the game, I was still when I started it. So here, put it on pause. Here, let me just say, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to put Chrono Trigger above Resident Evil 4. Even though I personally I personally have more fun playing RE4, I do think Chrono Trigger is the better game. I think The Last of Us stomps this game out, and it's a lot of like apples and oranges here. There's 20 years time difference between the two games. They're two completely different genres. One genre didn't even exist when this game came out. So you can't exactly do that. To it. So that's not a fair comparison. But I think The Last of Us is absolutely just stem to stern a better game than this. Not to take away from this.
No.
So I'm gonna agree, and it's gonna be the new number 2.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Still consistent.
And
same.
Yeah. And then what my initial idea is when we first pitched the show, we had talked about, hey, man, we're going to do this. If there's ever a tie between the two of us, we'll just flip a coin. However, if there was a tie here, where it's like if I was to make a case for this to be at number 3, and you were to make a case for it to be number 2, I didn't beat the game, so I would say that automatically gives you the tiebreaker win.
Fair enough.
You know, because you saw it through to the end at least. So it would have been number 2 regardless, because I think that's fair. However, so ladies and gentlemen, that's it for right here. Number 1, The Last of Us. Number 2, Chrono Trigger. And number 3, Resident Evil 4. Now.
And that's that.
And that's that. Now, just to complicate things, because we love complications here at Two Penny Games. Young Phil from twitch.tv/2pennygames is actually going to be joining us on next month's Two Penny Game Club, in which we are going to be playing Portal 1. And worth noting, what was the date? The 13th? Was that the date?
The date
for the Steam sale?
19th.
The 19th. On the 19th, Steam is doing a big old sale. Portal is currently $10 on Steam right now. Because it's a Valve game, it's probably going to get a discount. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything that can run Steam OS and play a game from, how old is Portal? Like 15 years? Something like that?
Something like that.
10, 15 years. It's over 10. Yeah, it's like 15 years old. Me and Connor are going to wait to the 19th, see what that sale is, and save ourselves a couple of dollars on that. But it's only $10, and Portal is available on Switch. It's available on PlayStation 3, I believe. Xbox.
I think so, yeah.
I think Portal 2 is on PlayStation 3. Portal 1 is not. But Portal 1 is available in the Orange Box collection, if you can find that anywhere or have that. So we're going to be playing Portal. So the date of... I had it, and now I don't. Now I got to look it up. God damn it. The Two Penny Games episode of October 3rd, which means we have until the 2nd, Connor, to play ourselves some Portal 1. I don't think that'll be that hard. It's only like 2 hours long. It's only it's like 5 hours long. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it was...
But Phil will be joining us for that. He has played a little more than half of Resident Evil 4. He's never touched The Last of Us. He's never touched Chrono Trigger. When I was texting him before, I said, hey, man, go ahead and finish your playthrough of RE4. If you want, play through Last of Us Part 1, the remake version, because I saw he installed it on his PlayStation. He doesn't need to play Chrono Trigger. He wouldn't like it. So, if ever in the future, he will, of course, have a vote later. But if ever in the future he's like, hey, I'm going to put it here, we would decide if it goes above or below Chrono Trigger or anything else. Because we've played. So, that's that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening to the Two Penny Game Club. If you are here from the Two Penny Games Cast, episode 112, remember, you can get episodes every Monday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/2pennygamescast, or mainstream podcast services of your choice. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We have until October 3rd to play Portal, reminder. And until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Bye.
I can't find my mouse. There it is.